Hi guys, so I want to talk about social isolation and social um, social isolation is something that happens very commonly with a lot of mental illnesses. So it happens with depression, it happens with CPTSD, it happens with PTSD, it happens with a lot of other things that happen. They could be like dysfunctional relationships, and in that as well, it's common for social isolation to be happening. It's very common for people who are abusive to use social isolation through a variety of techniques. So let's talk about these techniques. So these techniques are, for instance, like I don't feel like meeting people. I am an introvert, so I don't really want to go out and see people all the time like you. Why do you have to go and leave, and why can't we just hang out at home? Stuff like, why do you need people so desperately to make yourself feel better? Things like, people cannot be trusted. These people are talking about you behind your back. They are waiting to backstab you. You should not share your information with them. You should not be seeing them. So these things really, over time, they're like a propaganda campaign, and there's so many things, there's so many facets to it that we don't even realize what's happening until it's too late. And part of the social isolation also comes from like our own lowered self-esteem, and also lower self-esteem that combines with this abuse to make it even lower and even more affected, so that we feel very vulnerable and naked in front of people. We don't feel like we can protect ourselves. Our defenses have been worn down, our coping mechanisms have been worn down, and we just feel like very exposed, and we feel like the person we're dealing with at the other end is like hostile and vindictive and manipulative. Basically, like, subconsciously we start, this is my theory, so subconsciously we start applying that perception. So the perception could be like of a narcissist or an abusive person. So we start applying it to the world. So if we're with someone who's love avoidant, say, we can say like, oh, people don't really care about me. They just want to neglect me. They're not invested in relationships with me. So why should I bother actually doing anything? Or if we're with people who are narcissists, they can actually convince us that, we don't need people because they're the only person we can rely on. And if we're with love addicts, it could be like, we need to, just like that the entire world is basically like against you, and people are always trying to impose on your boundaries. They're always trying to take from you. They're taking away your time and your energy and everything. So that sort of overgeneralization happens where we apply an experience with one person, and because it's so frequent and because it's so prolonged, or because it has such a deep impact on us emotionally, we basically apply that to the whole world. And I think this happens more with people who are survivors of trauma, that they find it difficult to find that balance. And it is easier for them to lose touch with reality because they find it difficult to sort of keep tabs on it and check the facts versus their emotions. So, like, in the same line of thought what I was just saying, so I think people who like date abusive people or narcissists, over time they start feeling that the entire world is an unsafe place, also because of the things they have been told by this other person, and also because they've been mocked and trivialized and made to feel terrible about themselves, that they feel like, A, they have nothing to gain from people are only going to hurt them, and B, like, they don't like want to have they don't have the confidence, so they don't really want to go out there and meet people, because why would you step out of your comfort zone if you're already so emotionally just drained, or emotionally just like feel like chaotic inside? You just want peace, and you feel like that peace will come from being alone. So social isolation and depression is also like the same thing, where because of our negative feelings about ourselves and our negative thoughts, we don't really want to go out, we don't see the point of it, and we're just like, why bother? There's no point of anything anyways, so why should we bother doing that? And it is like really sort of harmful because obviously, like, when we generalize our perspective, and it's very hard to not do that. So when you have bad experiences, it's very hard to not apply those to like your general life view and your worldview and the way you view everything around you. So it's really hard to not do that, I understand. But it's really important to try to break out of social isolation. And if it's something that seems scary for you, and it seems scary for me right now, but the way you can, the way we all can get over or just try to start breaking out of that pattern that has been there for a while for anyone who has, become that way through abuse and trauma, or just like someone who just feels like socially awkward or shy or just uncomfortable with other people, with new people. So like, another one way is to just like do like something similar to exposure therapy, which means that you expose yourself slowly. So for instance, it's like dipping your toe in the pool slowly. So for instance, first you sort of tell one thing to someone, so that could be like, one thing could be, something that is not so private, or not so, like, if someone tells that to someone else, it's not going to be such a big deal, and we can tell that to someone like our sibling or someone we really trust. So we could sort of start building from there, and from there we can keep doing that more and more with safe people, and then move on to other people, and just be sure you're monitoring your boundaries in terms of, if you meet someone, you've just met them, don't reveal things about yourself. Do first, like, find out who they are, what they are. Don't just expose yourself, because that is going to in the end leave you feeling more unsafe, and that is just going to not be very great for you. So I hope you guys like this video, and I will see you guys soon. Mwah!